Okay, Maxwell Pickett, once again, we're back on live with Michael Andre Adams here, traveling in my world. You are here at Tin Lizzy's in the Perimeter. Now, I wanted to ask you some more about something fond and favorable about Wilson, about your brother Wilson Pickett, your older brother Wilson Pickett. Now, one of the things that I really appreciated knowing about him is that it sounds like he handled his business because he had his publishing company. What was the name of his publishing company again?
Irva Music Publishing.
Gotcha. Well, see, I appreciate that because, you know, you always hear these stories of so many artists who end up penniless because they don't own the rights to their stuff, to their materials, in whatever medium that they function. But Wilson, as a singer, I guess he got the lesson, which, you know, makes him a smart man and sort of a cut above a lot of other folk. You know what I mean? But
well, you are exactly right, and I count Wilson as one of the more fortunate ones during the era where he came along. There wasn't very many black artists that was afforded the opportunity to own the rights to their own music. Somewhere along the line, Wilson gained the trust of somebody, and they pulled his coat to the fact that you need to strive to the best of your ability to try to own your works. And so Wilson did end up forming his own publishing company. He owns the rights to a lot of his works outright, and he co-owns the rights to a lot of the other works. And that is very key in the entertainment industry.
Absolutely.
If you don't own the rights to your work, then what ends up happening is that when all is said and done, your legacy suffers because there is no money coming in after you leave.
Right. Somebody else is making all the money off of it.
Exactly. So we are very fortunate that he was smart enough to listen to that sound advice, and he put in place some things that helped him to own a lot of his work.
Now tell me something about Wilson that maybe is not so well known beyond his maybe his inner circle. Something that maybe the world at large doesn't know about Wilson.
Well, there's so many fascinating stories that I could share that I witnessed about Wilson when I was out there with him. It seemed like I worked for him so much longer, but I only worked for him a total of 7 years. But I had an occasion, and Wilson used to tell this story all the time. This is one that I didn't witness, but he used to tell it all the time, and we know, based on the testimony of other people, that it was a true story. Early on in Wilson's career, right after he had recorded his signature hit song, In the Midnight Hour, which became a classic. To this day, is still a classic, and it became his signature song. Well, back in those days, James Brown was at the top of the hill. He was the godfather of soul. He was the king of the hill. And if you got an opportunity to appear on the James Brown show, you really have made it. So because Wilson had out In the Midnight Hour, it became #1 in the nation. It was playing all over everywhere, so he was hot. James Brown tapped him to appear as an undercard act on his show at the Apollo, the James Brown Review. Well, during the first act, when Wilson came out to do his first act, he was out singing, and he had about 4 songs then that was really big, and he did a great job. He was getting a great response from the audience, and the most of the response came when he screamed. Like, everybody know that he was a screamer, and he would scream at certain points in his songs, right? So he got a lot of attention from that. All right, when the act was over and he came off, James Brown sent Bobby Byrd, Baby Lloyd, and his road manager to Wilson's dressing room to let him know that he would have to figure out another way to do his act without screaming, because there can only be one screamer on the show.
James was the screamer, right?
And that's me. So Wilson was not the type that you could just approach like that and say anything to. So he became very upset, and he had some very unkind words with the guys, and he told them, you know, get out of his dressing room. All right, he goes back out on the set.
Wait, now, did he say those words, or did he say some other words?
Oh, he told him to get out of his dressing room. I could promise you he told him that, but I know Wilson Pickett. He didn't know how to be afraid of anybody or be intimidated by anybody. That's just...
So he may not have used those exact words, but that was the gist of it.
Oh, I'm putting it mildly. I won't use the language he used. But anyway, they went back and told James that they had delivered the message. Wilson went out for the second set, and he screamed twice as much as he did in the first. And so by the time he could get back to his dressing room after the second set, James Brown himself, with Baby Lloyd, Bobby Byrd, the road manager, and a couple of other people, was there waiting for him. And James Brown stood in the middle of the dressing room floor and told him, Wilson Pickett, I thought I told you, and he used some words that I don't care to.
We're going to cut those out, too.
Right. He said, I thought I told you there could only be one scream on the show that you need to hear. And Wilson told him, says, some curse words. That's part of my song. How am I going to do my songs if I can't do that? And so James Brown said, that's it. Pack your
stuff
up and get out.
Hey.
You're fired.
Hey.
It was his show,
Right.
and he could send people packing if he wanted. So anyway, he fired Wilson, and so after letting Wilson know he was fired, Wilson took very hard offense with that, and he started towards James Brown, and the people had to get in between them and separate him. And Wilson pointed his finger at him and cursed him a few more times and says, fine, the hell with it. The next time I play the Apollo, I'll be headlining my own show. And less than 6 or 7 months later, he was back at the Apollo headlining his own show.
All right, for the Wicked Pickett.
The Wilson Pickett show.
Don't mess with the Pickett.
Don't mess with the Wicked. He don't play that mess. He does not play that mess.
Thank you, Maxwell.
You're more than welcome. It's my pleasure anytime.